Lately, I feel like I have been juggling a million and one things: writing, content creation, my business, being sick. And I know that I am not the only person that experiences this whole thing of when life gets busy, motivation is kind of the first thing to go out the window. So, this week we are going to be talking about how to stay motivated and keep making progress on your goals, even when life gets really busy. Speaking of busy, those of you that have actually been coming back to the podcast for the last couple of weeks know from Instagram that I have kind of been grappling with the name of this podcast. And my very first episode, I talked a lot about just kind of my nervousness around releasing a name, period. And then on Instagram, I talked a little bit about just not being really sure what direction I wanted to take with this, and that I just needed a couple of weeks of giving it a go to see what that would look like. So I am really excited to share that we are officially, finally, and forever the Booked and Busy podcast. Booked and Busy is a podcast for book lovers and creative entrepreneurs where we talk all things mindset, creativity, writing, life, and the books that I literally cannot stop thinking about. So if you've been watching my content for a while or been listening to the podcast, none of that is really changing. I've just finally landed on a name that I'm really excited about and that I really love. We love our little old placeholder name, but I'm super excited because this name just perfectly aligns with everything that my brand stands for, that I stand for, that this channel stands for, and this podcast. And so I just wanted to address that really quickly because I'm super excited about it. But let's get into the episode and talk all things motivation, because if you want to be a booked and busy girly, we need that motivation to keep coming over and over again. So let's get into it. So as I was saying, when life gets really busy, motivation kind of just disappears and like flies out the window. And oftentimes I think that most of us kind of use time as an excuse. Like, oh, this is going on and this is going on and this is going on. Therefore, I have no time to be motivated. I don't have time to go to the gym. I don't have time to work on my side hobby. I don't have time to work on the business I'm trying to build. I don't have time to read. I don't have time to write. But really staying motivated, at least in my experience, in my opinion, is all about your mental energy. If you are completely tapped out, you're not going to have the motivation to continue doing these things that you love or that you want to achieve, to keep reaching your goals. And I think that really comes from this concept where people tend to think that motivation is something that you wait for, but really motivation follows action. It is not the other way around. That is a hard pill to swallow, but it is so true. And for me, I think the last 2 months of my life have really brought that lesson to life for me. For those of you that do not know, I started writing the first draft of my romance book in January. And I also started taking content creation more seriously, primarily on YouTube. And it has been a journey. I mean, it's only been about 2 months, so there haven't been too many lows, but there have been lots of highs and great experiences. The lows will come, I'm sure. But that being said, there have definitely been moments where I was not feeling motivated. I am the first to admit that I am not somebody who can just kind of like turn on being motivated. I have let this word motivation like rule my life for periods of time for so many years. Definitely specifically when it comes to like working out and health related stuff. I feel like when it comes to my business and content and everything, it has been easier for me to just kind of like be motivated, if you will. However, since I have been taking all of this much more seriously over the last 2 months, there have definitely been a ton of times where I haven't necessarily been feeling like super motivated and like thrilled to do stuff. But because I've been so consistent and I've built up this routine and I've been learning this lesson so actively, I've been able to kind of push through that because I just kind of remembered that, hey, if I want to achieve this thing, I just have to keep going. Because I think when you're overwhelmed, it's really easy to just kind of put your goals on hold and say, okay, like I'll come back to this later, or I'll work on that tomorrow, or when I have time on this day, I'll do that. And don't get me wrong, I completely understand that if you are really that busy and you genuinely can't fit something into your schedule, that's one thing. However, I know from experience that 9 times out of 10, that is probably not always the case. I use the excuse of being busy all the time. And that goes for making plans with people, doing work stuff, doing my personal hobbies, literally everything, like you name it. Even especially, actually, not even, especially with reading. I love reading. I genuinely, absolutely love reading. And I have been in a little bit of a book slump for a while, which I am slowly crawling my way out of. But for the longest time, I kept telling myself that I was too busy to read, which is so silly because I was literally just depriving myself of something that I love. Like, why am I doing that? But really, I was never too busy. I was just waiting for the motivation to read when really I just needed to take the action of picking up a book and starting it. And once I got into it, I was fine. I was fine. Sometimes all it takes is literally just starting to take the action. And that goes hand in hand with what I was saying about my whole content journey, my writing journey. All I had to do was say, okay, it's a new year. This is what I want to do. These are my goals. I'm just going to do it. Just do it. Sometimes it just takes that first step of action to get you going because, like I said, motivation follows action. It is just not the other way around. So, of course, obviously, that is not always going to be so easy, especially if your goals are bigger than reading a book. So, the best way to approach that would be to start creating little small habits that can basically keep you motivated. So, if the thing that you're trying to do is read, for example, that's reading for 5 minutes a day, not setting a goal for like, I'm going to read this many pages or I'm going to blah, 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 whatever. Literally set a timer on your phone for 5 minutes and open a book. Read for the entire 5 minutes, even if it's literally the worst piece of literature you have ever laid your eyes on, which it probably won't be because I'm sure you have good taste. Read for the full 5 minutes, and I literally guarantee that by the end, you will probably want to continue. And doing something like that every day will just continue to spark the habit, build the habit, or rebuild the habit. It doesn't have to be something big. Even now with writing, like for the last 3 weeks, I've basically been sick on and off constantly. And it has made a huge dent in my writing goal, which is to finish the full first draft of my book by April 1st. And during that time, I was really struggling, obviously, because I was sick, but I was really struggling to be motivated to write my book. And that was kind of a hard pill to swallow because I'm really excited about my book. Like, why would I not want to do this thing that I'm excited about? But I just wasn't feeling motivated. But because I have developed such a intense habit of writing pretty much daily over the last 2 months, it was really not that hard for me to sit down, even just for a few minutes, like 5 to 10 minutes, and just write a little bit, write a little something. And I think that was probably the first time ever, like literally in my life, that I actually saw a habit that I built for myself, like almost come in handy, like in a moment of need, if that makes sense. I don't really know how to articulate what I'm trying to say. So I want to talk next about some of the smaller habits that can help you stay motivated when life feels busy. And like I was saying, one of the first things that really helps me is developing little micro habits, because making just a little bit of progress in whatever it is you're trying to achieve every single day is going to take you way further than wasting the entire day just waiting around for your motivation. I think, again, that's a big thing for like writing and reading, which obviously is a heavy topic on this podcast and this channel. But if you're just kind of like waiting around, you're like, oh, like I like reading at night. Like I'm going to be motivated at night. Like I love writing at night. I'm going to do that at night. Are you going to do that at night? Like, I don't know if you are. And so if you set aside those 5 minutes or 10 minutes or whatever it is, your little goal for the day, your small habit, that is going to take you so much further over a long period of time than it actually would to sit around and wait to become motivated. It's not about like completing half of a project or reading half of a book or writing like 30 million chapters in your book. It's just about doing something small that can help you get back into the flow and build up that excitement and motivation to keep going, because that's what's going to bring you back to do it again the next day. And that is exactly what you need in order to reach your goals. Something else that really helps me when it comes to motivation is having like little rituals or routines for the things that I want to do or accomplish. So what this means is pretty much, here, I literally wrote this down. I have to read it because I don't want to forget anything. What this means is pretty much having like maybe a go-to playlist or a drink or a specific workspace. Basically, having some sort of routine. Maybe it's a couple of things that you do, or like I said, a playlist, like a drink, whatever it is, something that you're doing that is almost going to like trigger in your brain every time that it's time to focus on this thing. That can literally be anything. For me, something I've been trying recently is normally in the morning I have like this weird hour between like 5:30 and 6:30. I'm just kind of like home, awake, can't go back to sleep. And lately I have just been like brain rotting, which I really would prefer not to be doing first thing in the morning. So something that I have been doing instead is making some tea and sitting down and either reading or writing. Am I really in the right headspace to be writing a book at 5:30 in the morning? Not really, but I can consume one. And so now every time I make tea, even sometimes at night, I just kind of want to open a book because I've quickly started just kind of associating that with reading. Now, again, it could be literally anything. Maybe I literally have this chair, like maybe you have a reading chair. I know for me with writing, a big thing is music. And so I could literally write anywhere. I could write here, I could write at my desk, I'll go write somewhere else, whatever. For me, a big thing of getting focus is music. And I'm sure, like most, I simply cannot listen to music with words when I'm writing or even reading. I just don't understand how people do that. It's just so distracting to me. So I literally have a playlist specifically for my book that I turn on every time I'm going to write. It just helps me focus, it gets me in the mood, and it just kind of sparks that motivation that I am trying to get into in the moment. And so if it's not something like a playlist or a drink, it can definitely be something physical too. I know for me, I am really blessed to have this office here in my house now. I did not have that before. So before I just kind of had like a workspace, like a desk area. But when I really, 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 really need to focus on something, especially business related, or if I'm doing work for like my social media clients, I am always sitting at my desk because I just feel like it helps me stay more focused. It reignites something in my brain where I know that I am working on work and I need to be focused and I need to remain focused. So, yeah, just kind of having some sort of ritual or routine that really makes what you're trying to do special, whether it's you're working towards a goal, you're trying to pick up a new habit, whatever it is, having some sort of ritual in place, a specific space or something that you do or listen to can really help you kind of trigger something in your brain to get motivated. And then something else is to romanticize the process. And I know that that has been such an overused little statement, but what I mean by this is you pretty much need to stop treating your goals like a burden and just make them fun again. I talked about this a little bit in the last episode as well, but if you are actively trying to achieve something and you're looking at it from the wrong lens, you are never going to feel motivated to do that thing. I think this is something that people heavily deal with when it comes to like exercise and working out. They just kind of treat it like a chore or like a burden. They don't want to do it. They think it's miserable. But the secret to staying motivated with something like that is that you need to make it fun. Stop treating it like a burden. How you feel when you are working towards your goal, it does matter. If you're working towards something and you feel like trash and you're not enjoying it, you're not going to feel motivated to continue reaching that goal. And the work that you do is not going to be coming from your most authentic self. And so, I mean, with exercise, I will say for me, it's taken years for me to find what helps me stay on track and stay motivated and stay consistent. And that has been Pilates. I've tried going to the gym. I've tried doing workouts at home, going on walks, runs. I've literally tried it all, you name it. When I started going to Reform Pilates last year, that literally changed my life. It changed my body fast, and it was like a shocking experience. I literally love it. That is the constant that I found for my workout routine that helps me just keep going and stay motivated because I found something that doesn't feel like a burden. And so I think if you're maybe going after some sort of side hustle or you're like trying to build a business, you're doing content creation, finding ways to make it truly feel fun makes a world of a difference. Since I've been doing content, I really have made an effort to make the process fun. And that was really important to me because if you guys don't know, I'm a social media manager. So I'm doing content creation now for myself, but I've also been doing that for all of my clients for years now. And I've struggled time and time again with it because it just always feels so much like work. And I don't want it to feel like work because it's been a dream of mine and I want it to feel fun and exciting. And so I've had to take a lot of steps and try different things to see what works so that it doesn't feel like a burden, so that it feels good, it feels fun, it feels exciting and inspiring. And for me, what that's looked like for content creation specifically, I guess, is just creating what I want pretty much. I think, like I said in another episode, I spend a long time creating content on things that I just didn't necessarily want to be talking about or didn't even feel like an authority or like the right person to talk about. Like I was just kind of creating content that didn't really feel aligned with me and my goals because I thought it was what I was supposed to do. So that was making it feel like a burden. And so when I started making content about the things that I wanted to make content about, it became a lot lighter, a lot easier. So it's just about finding the things that can romanticize the process for you. And I know that that's like a cheesy thing to say nowadays, but it really is true because, like I said, if you are chasing after goals and you're actively pursuing them and you're not enjoying the process, the outcome is it's just never going to feel as good. So the last thing that I want to talk about is a couple of things that you can do when you're feeling extra stuck. So if you are not feeling motivated literally at all and you're struggling and you just can't seem to break free of that, you should probably listen to this. So one of the first things that I do when I'm feeling stuck, and I learned this in therapy, thank you to my therapist, is I always change up my environment, especially if it's something that I'm like doing on my computer, if I'm editing, writing, whatever I'm doing, working on my business, whatever it is. I will always first switch rooms. If you can't switch rooms, go somewhere, go to a coffee shop, go to a bookstore, go sit down somewhere and just change up your environment. It was really funny because when I was in Texas the other week on my little trip, I spent like a whole day working in a Starbucks and then in Barnes and Noble, like for the entire day. And it was just crazy how much that really motivated me and excited me. I mean, before that I was sick, and before that, like I really don't have an excuse. I'm just a homebody. Like I don't tend to leave the house very often unless I have to. Obviously, I leave at least like once a day for something, but I don't really go out of my way to go work somewhere because I have this beautiful office. It just kind of reminded me how much it actually helps to change up your location. Like I literally set a reminder for myself now. I want to go somewhere different and do some work from somewhere else at least once a week moving forward because it just really, really, really helps. I mean, obviously being around people and like co-working, if you will, makes a huge difference and can just kind of help you lock in and focus. But also just the sounds, like being somewhere new, like the energy of a different place, it really helps you get inspired and get motivated. I mean, I think that day I wrote like 5,000 words in a day and achieved work on top of that. So it was like a really like, I accomplished a lot, which was great. And obviously that won't be the case every time, but just going somewhere new like that really, it really helps. It just really, really helps. And changing your environment, even if it's just moving from the chair to the bed or the bed to the chair, it makes a big difference. Something else that really helps me when I am just struggling to get motivated is I will do something that is still progress, but low pressure. For me, that's typically some sort of like brain dump. So I'll open my notes app and just kind of, if I'm, referring to writing, I will just like dump out a bunch of ideas that I've maybe been holding on to in my head about my book. It might be drawing something or making one video if you're in content creation, writing a paragraph if you're in writing, reading a paragraph, like just kind of doing like a low pressure version of what you were trying to achieve that day. And like I said, that kind of goes hand in hand with what I was talking about in the beginning about just doing like small things every single day. Just don't make it so intense. Like, don't put the pressure on yourself to achieve something massive that day if you know that you're not going to be able to. That's why I kind of called it like a low pressure thing. So come up with it, whatever that might be for you, and give it a try. If you're feeling unmotivated, do it for like a week, something really low pressure, like low stakes. You don't have to do it, but doing it will help you make that step forward towards feeling more motivated and excited. And then maybe the next week you can actually achieve that higher pressure thing. The last thing that I would really, really recommend if you're feeling unmotivated is to do some sort of public accountability. And for me, obviously, for my book, that has been I'm sharing the journey on YouTube. I'm talking about when I want to achieve this goal by. And I have set a very specific goal for myself. I want to write the full first draft of my manuscript by April 1st. That is a big goal in itself, which is fine. But I have publicly shared that. I've shared it many, many times. I say it in almost every video. I'm purposely doing that because I am forcing myself to follow through with it. I am someone who struggles to completely follow through with a big project like that or a big task. I have always wanted to write a book. You guys know this. And I knew when I started writing that if I didn't find some sort of way to hold myself extremely accountable, that I probably wouldn't be able to fully complete it. And so holding myself accountable by not only sharing the journey, but also sharing my goals specifically on my social media has been literally kicking my ass into gear and keeping me so accountable. Even though I've missed a couple of days and I'm a little bit behind, I have literally already scheduled things out. I am itching to achieve this goal, and I know that I am going to do it because I have been holding myself so accountable in front of you guys. And so obviously, whatever your goal is, that is not to say that you need to like make a YouTube channel dedicated to your goals. That is not at all what I'm saying. But finding some sort of way to hold yourself accountable, maybe with another person or in a group chat. I mean, I know that there are so many communities and whatever you're trying to achieve, literally anything under the sun, I 100% guarantee that there is some sort of community online for it. Maybe you're trying to achieve the goal with your friend, or you tell your partner about it, a sibling, whoever. For me, it's interesting because I found that when I tell people in my real life about my goals, it doesn't motivate me in the same way that it has been to share that publicly. And obviously, I'm not going to sit here and tell you about all my personal goals, but sharing this big goal and focusing on it publicly, like on social media, has made a huge difference for me. I know myself, and I know that if I wasn't going about this whole journey the way that I am, it would probably look very different. And so, like I said, I think take that with a grain of salt, like see whatever resonates from that with you, go with. But I would really, really recommend finding some sort of way to hold yourself accountable with what you're trying to achieve, because it really makes a huge, huge difference. And depending on what your goal is, I'm sure it wouldn't hurt to share it on social media. So I would recommend that. Speaking from personal experience, it's not like I'm growing a million followers a minute here or having like crazy social media success, but I'm doing it. I'm being consistent. I'm having fun with it. And it's holding me super accountable in my journey. So for me, those are all major positives. And if that's something that feels fitting to you, I would definitely recommend giving it a try. But if not, like I said, finding some sort of other way to stay accountable, like telling a friend, finding some sort of online community or something, it all really makes a big difference. So I think that is just about everything. Those are the majority of my thoughts around just staying motivated when life feels really busy. Like I said, if you take anything from this episode, let it be this, that motivation follows action. It is not the other way around. If you are trying to get motivated or you're waiting around for motivation, it is not going to come. You need to take some sort of action and the motivation will follow. And if you're feeling really stuck, just start small, find low pressure ways to start making progress, little habits. Those are the kind of things that will help you get back into the flow of things and start getting really motivated to achieve that thing that you're trying to achieve. Thank you guys so much for listening and watching. If you aren't already, please be sure to follow the podcast on Instagram and TikTok. And of course, please rate the podcast on Spotify. It would mean the world to me. And again, I'm feeling super excited just about the direction that this is starting to form and take. And it's just been great to actually be able to utilize the data and everything and my own experience and feelings of giving it a try and just kind of taking that and allowing myself to run with the direction of the podcast. So if you have been here since the first episode, if you've been watching my videos for the last couple of months, it really means so much to me. And I would love if you could leave a comment below, introduce yourself, let's talk. this is such a small channel. I'm 100% going to reply. Yeah, thank you guys so much. Just being a part of this community and the community that we're building here is really, really special. So I am really, really grateful for that and appreciate all of the support. And I will see you guys very soon with another video and next week with another episode of the podcast.